coming from Blackheath to Katoomba, down Hill 33, towards Evans Lookout Road, and coming to that corner, she slowed down a bit.
What was it you saw?
A Tasmanian tiger, otherwise known as a thylacine.
How can you be so sure, though?
Well, in this case, I wasn't alone, of course. I had my girlfriend with me, and she saw it too, and she had seen it a few days before me. And there have been at least a dozen other people who have seen it, or an animal answering to that description, in the same area over a period of time, always late at night.
From what you've read, is this the habitat, though, of a Tasmanian tiger? After all, it's only known to have existed in Tasmania.
Well, much the same mountainous habitat, inaccessible bushland. Anything could live in some of this country and you wouldn't know it. It's so inaccessible.
For some people, the world we think we know is not enough. There is a search to put substance to the shadows of the past. Things that once moved across the land are more than a memory. Hidden in the landscape, there are living myths. A menagerie of the imagination, waiting to be discovered.
I'll never give up the search. No, it's my life. I can't live without it. I've got to go out into the bush. I've got to search for these creatures, and it's become an obsession.
Rex Gilroy has been on the trail for 25 years.
It's the mystery that attracts me. The mystery of the Australian outback, the bush that you can't get into, what's out there. There's a lot of mysterious country. The Thylacine mystery. Scientists claim this species is extinct on the Australian mainland in spite of continuing sighting reports. The thylacine, or Tasmanian tiger, a carnivorous marsupial of Pleistocene or Ice Age times, has long been claimed extinct, up to about 2,000 years on the Australian mainland, although there have been claims... The Hawkesbury River monster. For thousands of years, Aborigines have preserved traditions of enormous reptilian water monsters, which they say lurk in the Hawkesbury River. They're ancient cave paintings, Australia's Bigfoot. For thousands of years, Aboriginal legends have preserved traditions of mysterious, hairy, ape-like creatures called yowies, meaning great hairy men. The yowie is described as standing up to 8 to 10 feet tall, weighing around 500 pounds. They're covered in long hair and have no neck, the head being sunk into the shoulders. Australia's mystery panther, seen over a wide area of the eastern Australian mountain ranges for generations, these mysterious animals have caused endless speculation among bushmen and researchers alike. Like so many unknown creatures found elsewhere throughout the world, the Australian panthers inhabit remote mountain forest country, their distribution being the eastern mountain ranges from Cape York in far north Queensland to Victoria.
Rex, these are all homegrown Australian mysteries, aren't they?
Yes, things we should be studying rather than reading up on foreign so-called monsters like Bigfoot, the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster. And they've been largely neglected over generations. In this country, I find that while many Australians are prepared to believe everything they read from America or Britain on overseas strange, that is unknown animal species, whenever I have tried to put across the fact that we have similar things that need studying right in our own backyard, I'm quite often given strange looks and even laughed at by people who cannot take it seriously. Yet they'll accept it from some other countries.
Why do you think that people in Australia aren't studying these types of mysteries?
Well, I feel the average Australian is a knocker. He'll accept religiously sightings of the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or any strange creature. We now even have neo-dinosaurs in the Congo, supposedly. But when you say that there are giant lizards living in the interior of New Guinea, up to or over 30 feet in length, people don't want to accept that.
Fabulous creatures are more than myths. Many did exist. The dinosaurs we know, but there are other beasts here with the first humans 30,000 years ago. The beasts and bunyips of legend, the distant memories of our ancestors. But are there more unknowns? For those who believe there is more to unknown animals than ancient stories, there is the search for proof.
Of I've spent the best part of 30 years, ever since I was a teenager, interested in it, and for the past 20, 25 years, I've been making field trips looking for it. I'm not after money, really. I'm just after the satisfaction that I've got one of these creatures on film finally. That, you know, I've proven to my own satisfaction that it exists, that I didn't imagine what I saw. I'm more interested in just being left alone to go out in the field and look for my evidence. And if I have that evidence and I plonk some strange creature on some TV interviewer's desk sometime, well, they won't be able to laugh at that. My father was a Scot, and I was brought up with bedtime stories of ruined castles and megalithic stone monuments in Scotland. Nessie, of course, he grew up in Loch Ness monster country, so I guess I always had it in my blood, and I come from a long line of naturalists in the Gilroy family, going back many generations. My great-grandfather was chased up a tree by a Bengal tiger in India collecting butterflies, and so I guess I'm following in his footsteps.
What if I said it's almost like a religious thing for you?
It is. So I get a great deal of satisfaction out of seeing areas that the average Australian hasn't gone into, and I want to bring this fact to the Australian public, that we have all this beautiful country and we've got to do something about taking care of it, preserving it for future generations. And so really this is my religion, natural science, as well as my own personal theories. There are my conventional researchers, and I'm deeply involved in the preservation of our heritage, particularly, well, one thing I am into is insect conservation. I want to see more legislation to protect rare butterflies.
I'm talking about beliefs. The beliefs are almost religious, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yes, how can I really put it into words? But, you know, the holy grail of Australian naturalists is the capture of the Tasmanian tiger, it is said. It doesn't stop there with me. I want to prove these creatures exist so that legislation can be passed to protect them. One thing that's been levelled at me is that I'm not a university-trained person, I'm not an academic, and therefore, being an amateur, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I am doing my research in a scientific way. Science was founded on theories. You've got to have the theory to go and look for the evidence, and when you get the evidence, you can prove your theory. Heinrich Schliemann was told Troy was a Greek myth, and of course, he discovered Troy. He was an amateur archaeologist. I've employed much the same observation techniques as any other scientist. I keep notes in the field, I record everything I see, and I'm always watching out for footprints. If it's a fossil or something, well, I'll keep it. And I've collected quite a lot of our conventional creatures. I started when I was 7 collecting rocks and bugs, which I'm still doing, and of course the collection is growing all the time. I do not go along with the textbooks. I'm what can you say, a scientific and historical heretic. Yes, I am a heretic.
Rex, what's that in the box?
This is a panther footprint. We got this a few weeks ago down the south coast.
What sort of an animal is that, the panther?
Well, the panther is the supposed Australian panther, or rather, I believe, a species of marsupial cat from the Ice Age that's just avoided scientific discovery.
You seem to have all sorts of things there.
And here we have a plaster cast of a fossilised handprint, we believe. I found this several years ago, or the actual fossil itself, on the Carrai Range west of Kempsey. And we think the footprint could be, or the foot and handprints that I found could be up to 500,000 years old. Then, from the south coast, down near Bateman's Bay, about 12 months ago, a number of large tracks are found, we believe, of an oversized monitor lizard, and this is one of the footprints.
It certainly is big.
It is. It's an oversized creature. If it's not an oversized laced tree guana, I believe it could be a specimen of a track left by a creature that I've been investigating for some years that could be up to 20 foot in length. That is, a form of monitor lizard which is supposed to have been extinct in Australia some 3,000 years.
What are you doing with all these things?
Well, they're going on show now in this room, which is my cryptozoology room, and is for animals unknown to science, or, as I said, creatures that are supposed to be extinct but may still be alive because people claim to have seen them. And, of course, we have footprints turning up of them.
Is that what cryptozoology stands for?
That is, the search for animals still unknown to science.
How strong is all this evidence?
Well, very strong from a standpoint of the number of sightings reports we get, and there's some evidence turning up. There are hair samples being found in various parts of the world that we now believe belong to the supposed Yeti, or dweller among the rocks, which some people call the abominable snowman. In fact, I have some tracks here now. We have a Gilroy foot, then we have a Bigfoot foot, and of course we have this Yeti foot. These are copies of originals. This one, of course, comes from Darjeeling in Nepal, and the Bigfoot track is from the Pacific Northwest in California. Now, given distortion in the original wet mud, these tracks would have been a little smaller than they appear, so you've got to allow for distortion. But my foot here, I have made to show the difference between a human foot and what I believe to be the foot of a relic primate, that is, a large form of man-like ape that may still be alive and which we haven't discovered yet.
Have you got a Yowie footprint?
Yes, John. This one was copied from one that was found up on the Carrai Range near Kempsey some years ago, and that's one of the traditional habitats of these, well, mysterious creatures.
How do you know it's a Yowie's footprint for sure?
Well, when you compare it to my foot, you'll find the toe structure alone is distinct from a human track. You have the opposable big toe here and the two centre upward toes, and then of course the two outer toes pointing outwards, which is distinct from my track. This is a primate characteristic and not a human one.
These must have been pretty big animals.
Well, estimates range anything up to 8 feet, and the creatures can weigh about several hundred pounds. They're herbivorous, and from what we know on the world scale, they seem to inhabit the same country, the more remote mountainous forest terrain.
The Great Dividing Range. A barrier, a haven, a place for secrets to survive.
Rugged. There's parts of the Blue Mountains haven't seen a white man's foot yet because you can't get into it. You see nothing walking along the bush tracks here in the mountains. You've got to get off the beaten track really to see any signs of wildlife. Creatures aren't going to sit around where humans are all the time. anything could exist in. You wouldn't know it.
It's now just after 11 on a Friday evening on JJJ, and of course that means the Talkback Show. Tonight we're going to get into some animals. Well, hopefully we shall. We've got as a guest Rex Gilroy, foremost investigator of the unexplained in Australia. We'll have Rex talking about
Ashley from 5 Doc on 4. Hello,
Minutes.
Triple J. Hold the line, please.
Is Rex there?
Rex is here.
You bet.
Good evening, Rex. How are you?
Anything else?
Listen, I have questions for you regarding the black panther of Kangaroo Valley.
Oh, yes.
Yes, camping there recently. Out of the bush, the brush, came a creature, very, very small and dark. Now, it scared the birds away, and we were sort of bewildered as to what it was. 15 minutes later, sort of walking around, having a look, we saw really unusual footprints, sort of unlike that of a small cat. You know, talking to the ranger of Kangaroo Valley the next day, he said, oh, there has been sightings of a so-called black panther. What are your views on this?
Well, I find that 60% of the sightings tend to be feral cats. And of course there have been a number of mistaken identities like black dogs, even wild pigs, and even a wallaby or two have been blamed for panther sightings. But there is that other percentage that can't be explained, and these are the creatures which leave entirely different footprints. They might appear to be panthers to many people, but as I say, some have been seen carrying pouched young, and I say this makes them marsupials rather than felines.
Okay, Rex. Correct on that point.
You saw what?
Having seen feral cats in deep wood up
A UFO, but you're not going to talk about that, are you? Oh, that's good. Okay, I'll put you on hold.
And as for the bunyip, it's largely a mythical creature anyway.
So a bunyip isn't a yowie?
No, there were a number of so-called bunyips. Some of them have turned out to be real animals, like the giant emu bunyip of Central Australia and Aboriginal folklore has turned out to be a 20-foot fossil skeleton recently. So we have physical proof of that now. Fossil remains. The classical bunyip was the diprotodon. We know it existed from fossil remains. Every one of the Aboriginal bunyips has turned out to be a known fossil animal, except for the creatures who were half man, half reptile, half something else. Those sort of bunyips were mythical. They were made to keep the children close to the campfire at night. But the other, more believable bunyips are all turning out to be previous fossil animals that are now extinct. Now, so far, all these creatures have turned out to have been living animals. Someday, I predict someone may turn up a fossil remain of a primate-like animal, which will turn out to be our old friend the yowie. And when that happens, my argument will be complete.
The last known Tasmanian tiger died in a cage in 1936. Out of its death, a modern bunyip has been born. Is it still alive? On the mainland, it's been extinct for thousands of years. Or has it?
I saw a creature about 1.5 foot in height on all fours, approximately, and approximately 5 foot from head to tail. It didn't seem to have all that much hair. It was very fine hair, and we noticed these darkish stripes running from the mid-back onto the tail rump. And it just didn't look like a normal dog. Well, I found out much later, of course, other people had seen it there over a period. and maybe more than one creature, I think, has been sighted on that road. It had come from over the railway line, which runs parallel to the highway, and on the other side of the railway line is scrub and a gully that drops down into the Megalong Valley. I'd say this creature had come out of there, was in the act of crossing the road into the Katoomba water catchment, and from there down into the Gross Valley. Now, I couldn't possibly have imagined it. Could I have seen a striped marsupial cat of some sort? But no, it was far too big for that. And so I'm still convinced what I saw was a living mainland thylacine.
To find the tiger would be the link between myth and reality, the evidence that would make the search for all the other mysteries worthwhile.
There's a biologist once said to me, Rex, give me just one or two hair samples of one of these creatures and I've got your species nailed. They can be examined under a microscope. That is physical proof, or a live or dead creature. Until you have that evidence, you can't prove a thing. But in the meantime, I'm searching for that evidence, and until I get it, all I can say is we must all be prepared to keep an open mind on the issue.
I almost wonder whether you'd be disappointed if they found all these things.
Yes, I think in a way one would feel disappointed for a little while that one had been caught, but that wouldn't stop me searching for more. I'll still go out into the bush, and as I say, someday I'll be found dead in the bush, having died with my boots on, with a lump of rock in one hand and a magnifying glass in the other.
Come on, what would make you give up?
Well, nothing short of old age, and I don't think that's going to stop me if I can help it.